Dear students, welcome to my online class. After a short break, once again I am connected with you online, again with a new topic. And as you can see in the slide, my today's topic is sentence connectors. In my previous few classes, I discussed writing items from your English second paper syllabus. But here in this today's class, I am going to discuss a grammatical item taken from your syllabus and obviously from English second paper. My today's topic of discussion is sentence connectors. And this topic is set in question number 10 in English second paper syllabus. You know, a passage or a text is given in the question paper with 10 gaps, and these gaps basically come at the very beginning of a sentence, and you students are to fill in the gaps with appropriate connectors. That is the type of question we generally face in the exam hall. So here in this class, I'm going to discuss connectors in detail. I will talk about different types of connectors, their necessity, and how we should answer the topic in the exam scripts. My dear students, there are a huge number of connectors we very frequently use when we write something or when we speak in our practical life. And it is not possible to include all the connectors in a single class. And that is why I have decided to divide my classes on connectors in different parts. And in this process, today I'm going to introduce part 1 on sentence connectors. Actually, the term connectors is not uh, anything new for you. You have already studied connectors in your SSC level, and here in ACC level, once again, you are going to study connectors. But the connectors you studied in SSC level is not the same uh, as you going to study connectors in the ACC level. Actually, there is a slight difference between the connectors you studied in SSC level and the connectors you are going to study in ACC level. And to know the difference between the two types, we should move to the next slide. Dear students, here in this slide, you can see connectors or linkers. And I have categorized the linkers or connectors in two types. In first type, you can see word, phrase, or clause level connectors, and the second type, sentence level connectors. And what is word, phrase, or clause level connectors? In this case, connectors are used within a sentence for connecting two words, two phrases, or sometimes two clauses within a particular sentence. That means here uh, we use connectors within a sentence for connecting two words, sometimes two phrases, or sometimes to connect two clauses. And that is the type you studied in your SSC syllabus. But what we are going to do in ACC level? In ACC level, we are going to use sentence connectors. The connectors which are used to connect one sentence with another. And these connectors are basically used at the very beginning of a sentence. And that is the type I am going to focus on here in this class, my dear students. Remember, sentence connectors generally comes at the very beginning of a sentence, though sometimes they may appear in the middle, but our first priority should be on the connectors which generally comes at the very outset of a sentence. Just look at these two examples here. Example number 1, The man is poor but honest. Can you see any connector here in this example? Obviously, the word but written in bold letter. And this connector is used here to connect two words only, poor and honest. And the connector is used within a sentence. But if we look at the second example, the man is poor, but he is honest. The same kind of statement is given in the second example, but here in this example, we have two different sentences. Firstly, the man is poor, and then he is honest. Two different sentences are connected by a connector, that is but. So the connector but, we can see it in the first example and even in the second example. The same connector is used in two different ways. And uh, the second example, is the uh, thing that we are going to study here in this class. This type of connector is the focus of my discussion in my today's class. So, my dear students, you can see uh, two types of connectors here: word, phrase, or clause level connectors, and then sentence level connectors. And my today's focus will be on sentence level connectors that you are going to face in your SSC level. Although, my dear students, in some cases you may face connectors within a sentence. That means word, phrase, or clause level connectors may also be selected for your examinations. But basically, more prominently, connectors, sentence level connectors will be selected for your examination. So move to the next slide, and here in this slide you can see why connectors are necessary. Why do we use connectors in our writing or when we speak? It is very necessary to maintain the coherence in your writing. Actually, connectors are known as cohesive devices, and this coherence is very important for standard form of writing. So, dear students, if you do not use any connectors in your writing, or if you avoid using proper connectors, then your sentences will fall apart. They can't make any meaning, and it becomes very difficult for the readers to follow your writing. So, proper use of connectors is very essential to maintain coherence in your writing. And if you do so, it becomes very easy for the readers to follow any piece of writing. And proper use of connectors makes your writing well organized. It brings slide. uh, Here you can see approach to solving the task. That means how a student should proceed to answer connectors in the um, exam, how he should prepare the answer of the connectors. Here I have given some points that the students should follow when they answer connectors in the answer script. Just read the points. Read the given text thoroughly. First of all, students are advised to read the text that is given in the question paper very carefully. They should read the given text very carefully. Try to guess the meaning of the text. Uh, it is very important. Students must uh, know the meaning of the text. If he fails to make out the meaning, then it may not be possible to use the right connector in the right place. So, understanding the meaning of the text is very important. Also, try to find out the relation between the sentences. You know, dear students, connectors are used to join two sentences. So, you have to find out the relation that is prevailing between the sentences. And if you can find out the right relation between the sentences, then you will be able to use the right connector. So finding out relationship between the sentences is another important thing for using right connector. Try to use the appropriate connectors while reading the text for the second time. So uh, from this point, I would like to uh, make you conscious that students should not use connector in the gaps from their first reading. They should try to use the appropriate connectors um, from their second time reading. When they read the text for the second time, only then you should try to use connectors in the gap. And last of all, write the right answer only without copying the whole text. So when you write the answers in the answer script, you should not you should not copy the whole text as you are suggested to do in the case of pronoun references. In the case of pronoun references, students are expected to copy the whole text from the question paper, and then he should write the correct answer and underline it. But in the case of uh, connector, you must not write the whole text in the answer script. Just pick up the right answer with sequential numbers. And these are the points students are expected to follow when they answer uh, connectors in the answer script. So, dear students, you can see here what is the right method of answering connectors in the answer scripts. And now, my dear students, I'm going to discuss different types of connectors. And as I have already told you, uh, there are huge number of connectors. So many connectors we have in English language that it is not possible to include all types of connectors here in a class. I will just pick up the most familiar connectors that are very important for your better preparation. And uh, through connectors, we express different kinds of uh, um, things like sometimes we use connectors to show sequence, sometimes we use connector to show compare and contrast or to illustrate something, sometimes we use connectors to make a list, etc., etc. And in my next slides I will show you different types of connectors to show different purposes. Here in my next slide, you can see different types of connectors. To show sequence or list, if we are asked or if we find a passage where a sequence or a list is given, then what type of connectors we should use? Here I have given some connectors that are frequently used to describe a sequence or to make a list. You can see here at first or firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, etc. Then, afterwards, after that, next, finally, at last, previously, meanwhile, eventually, etc. There are many other connectors that can also be used to show sequence or list. So, my dear students, these are the connectors we generally use to show sequence or to make a list. And I have given an example in the right hand part. In the right part of the table, I have given an example. And uh, before reading the example, you should keep in mind the nature of connector to show sequence or list. Now I'm going to read this example. Making a cup of tea is an easy process. In number A, we have a gap here. And what is the topic? Making a cup of tea is an easy process. So in the later sentences, we are going to describe the process, how to make a cup of tea actually, what process or what steps, what methods we are going to follow if we want to make a cup of tea. So, dear students, making a cup of tea is an easy process. Here we have a gap, that means we are to use a connector here. Boil some water in a pot, again a gap. Put some tea leaves into the boiled water. Then once again we have a gap here. Pour the liquor in a teacup. Again a blank here. Mix some milk and sugar with the hot liquor. And last of all, another gap here. A cup of tea is ready to serve. So if you read this passage very carefully, you will see that uh, the passage is describing the process of making a cup of tea and what should we do if we want to make a cup of tea. It is a series of action, that means it is making a list or giving a sequence here. So uh, for the solution, we have used at first or firstly in number A, the gap number A, we have used at first or firstly. Dear students, I have given two options here. You can either use at first or firstly, but you should not answer like this. You should not provide any option in your answer. You must choose just one, either at first or firstly, but never use any option in your answer. So, as it is a process or a sequence or a list, we should use at first or firstly in number A, and number B, secondly. Secondly, put some tea leaves into the boiled water. In C, we have used then. It is also used to describe a sequence. Number D, after that. After that, mix some milk and sugar with the hot liquor. And last of all, I have used eventually, and I have also given an option finally or eventually. Again, I am reminding you, you should not provide any kind of option in your answer. You should choose only one, either finally or eventually. So there arises a question. Sometimes students ask the teachers, if we use in a list or to describe a sequence, if we use firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, fifthly, something like that, uh, is this acceptable? In that case, I will suggest my students, you should not use connectors in such a way. uh, it it is acceptable, but it doesn't sound so good. It sounds bad. It sounds like a discord. So you should avoid this type of use of connectors, as you have many other alternatives. As you have many other alternatives for the same purpose, you should not uh, follow firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly. You should bring about a variation in your use of connectors. So, my dear student, this is how we should describe a sequence by using such type of connectors. Now, about a kind of fluency, eloquency, and spontaneity in your writing. That is why connectors are very essential. So, my dear students, you should be very attentive to this class. Move to the next slide. And in this slide, I have shown uh, which type of connectors we use to show addition. If we want to add something to our statement, if we want to add something to describe something, the same type of description in our writing, then we may use and, also, to, in addition, further, furthermore, as well as, besides, in addition to, moreover, again, then, not only but also, etc. These are the most common um, connectors that are used to show addition. That means if we add something, if we add something of same type of description, such type of connectors are very frequently used. For example, trees play a vital role in our environment. The uh, important role trees play in our environment. They maintain the ecological balance. You know, trees are very important for maintaining ecological balance. And here in this passage, maybe we are going to describe the necessity of trees and what functions a tree uh, do for us. They give us dash food but also shelter. Then in question number A, gap number A, we find uh, a connector. We are asked to use a connector within a sentence. It is not at the very beginning of a sentence. But in number B, we are asked to use a connector at the very beginning of the sentence. Trees keep the soil strong. Number C, again a gap. Many birds build their nests on trees. Number D, some trees have medicinal quality. And number E, trees add to the beauty of nature. So all the sentences give us information about the necessity or good sides of tree, what benefits we are getting from trees. So all the sentences are giving us the same type of information, the good sides or the benefits that trees offer us. So here in this gap, we may use all types of connectors as shown in the left hand side of the table. They give us not only food but also shelter. You know, my dear students, not only dot dot but also is such type of conjunction that is generally used as correlative conjunction. So if there is but also, it must be related with not only, and if there is not only, we must use but also in the latter part of the sentence. So in the first gap, we very easily can decide we should use not only. They give us not only food but also shelter. In number B, I have used again. Again is a connector that can be used to add same kind of statement. Again, trees keep the soil strong. Then, many birds build their nests on trees. And number D, same kind of statement that is describing the benefit um, given by tree. I have used besides. Besides, many trees have medicinal quality. And last of all, moreover, trees add to the beauty of nature. So, dear students, you see how uh, connectors are used to show uh, same kind of description in a passage, and these are the connectors which are frequently used to add something to our statement. Move to the next slide. To show contrast, if we want to uh, show contrast, we are to use this type of connectors. But, however, nevertheless, on the contrary, whereas, yet, though, although, while, in spite of, apart from, etc. All these connectors are very common. These are commonly used connectors to show contrast between something or somebody. And in the right hand part of the table, we have another example. I'm reading the text. Rajiv and Raju are good friends. They passed SSC from the same school. And we have a gap here. They have different aim in life. So, dear student, you can see they passed SSC from the same school. And what type of statement comes next? They have different aim in life. They passed from the same school, and the next sentence, they have different aim in life. So the statement in this sentence is just the opposite of the previous sentence. So it is a kind of contrast here, and to show contrast we are to use such type of connectors. You should remember it. Now go on. Again, in number B, we have a gap at the very beginning of a sentence. Rajiv wants to become a doctor. Raju prefers the profession of an administrator. Again, there is a contrast in the aim of two friends. Rajiv wants to become a doctor. On the other hand, Raju prefers the profession of an administrator. Thus, Rajiv has a target of getting admitted into public medical college. And this is the aim of Rajiv. He wants to be admitted in a public medical college. And what does Raju want? Raju wants to receive higher education from a reputed university in any academic discipline, preferably in English. So again, there we find a contrast between Rajiv and Raju. One wants to receive higher education in a reputed university, and the other wants to be admitted in a public medical college. It is another contrast between them. Again, in number D, we have another gap. Both of them wish to dedicate themselves in the service of mankind. Though there is a difference in their wishes or desires, both of them wish to dedicate themselves in the service of mankind. So here in this sentence, we notice a kind of transition from the previous description. And last of all, in number E, we have the last gap. Having good academic records, the two boys are working very hard to make their dreams true. So this is all about the passage, and in this passage we can see the differences between Rajiv and Raju, how their aims are different and how their desires are different from each other. And if we look at the solution, we can see I have used but. They passed SSC from the same school, but they have different aim in life. As the latter sentence is giving us the information just opposite expressed in the previous sentence, we can use but here. We can also use yet or however, such type of connector in this place. There is another question that student very frequently ask their teachers. Uh, if they are allowed to use the same connector once or twice or thrice in the same passage, this is also possible. The examiners may accept the answer if you use the same connector in different gaps in the same passage, but I will suggest you not to use the same connector in different places in the same text. As you have many alternatives, as you have many alternative answers for the same purpose, you should not use the same connectors again and again. And if you do so, your answer will become stereotype. You should always try to bring about a variation in your answers. Suppose if you want to use but in the first gap, and then if you think but can again be used in the second gap, you should not use but in both the gaps. Rather, you should use but in the first gap, then come to however or nevertheless or whereas or yet. Just try to bring about a variation in the use of connectors. That will be very good for you. The teachers will be pleased to see the variation of using connectors in your writing. That is very important, my dear student. Remember it. And in number B, I have given two options here, while or though. While Rajiv wants to become a doctor, Raju prefers the profession of an administrator. Or though Rajiv wants to become a doctor, Raju prefers the profession of an administrator. Both are correct, but dear students, you must not give any option in your answer. You must choose only one, that is the right style of answering uh, connectors. Thus, Rajiv has a target of getting admitted into a public medical college. And in number C, on the other hand, Rajiv wants to be admitted in a public medical college. And what does Raju want? Does he want to be admitted in a medical college? No. His desire is quite different from the desire of Rajiv. Raju wants to receive higher education from a reputed university in any academic discipline, preferably in English. So we find a difference between the desire of Rajiv and that of Raju. That is why I have used the connector on the other hand in gap number C. Then in D, both of them wish to dedicate themselves in the service of mankind. So we see a kind of transition here. In the previous sentences, we saw some differences between their thoughts and ideas. But here in this sentence, very suddenly, we find a kind of similarity between their desires. And that is why it is a kind of transition is indicated here in this sentence. And I have used however in this gap. However, both of them wish to dedicate themselves in the service of mankind. And last of all, in gap number E, having good academic records, the two boys are working very hard to make their dreams true. So, dear students, you can see uh, they have good academic records, yet the two boys are working very hard. So, in this last gap, I have used in spite of. In spite of having good academic records, the two boys are working very hard to make their dreams come true. So, this is the solution of this problem, and I think, dear students, you can see how we use connectors to show contrast in the passage, and I have also discussed the connectors to show sequence or list, and to use the right connector in the right place, it is very essential to know the meaning of the sentence. And very often our students fail to make out the true meaning of the passage, and if uh, they can't understand the meaning, it is quite difficult to use the right connector in the right place. So dear student, I will suggest you to read English text as much as you can. It will improve your vocabulary skill, and it will also enrich your sense of grammatical structure of sentences, and only then it will be possible for you to understand the meaning of the sentences. And this is how you should proceed to the use of connectors. So, my dear students, I'm going to close my class today, and hope to meet you soon with the next part of connectors, with the next class, um, which I will uh, design on sentence connectors. And since then, stay home and